All right, good evening. My name is Matt Mortwood. I'm the Director of Public Works here at Germantown. And tonight we're going to be going through a presentation on spring, summer, and fall projects that will be happening under the Department of Public Works in Germantown. And just to give a little context to what's going on in the presentation tonight, this was a meeting that was open for public participation. We don't have anybody in the audience, so myself and the village engineer, Kevin Driscoll, will be going through the presentation and planning to post this online for anybody that is interested in this information. You can always reach out to us, and our contact information is on the website as well. So the agenda for tonight is just to go through some introduction, explain kind of what Public Works is and where it works, and then talk about some of our annual road program and seal coating work that's planned in the village, a couple of different road construction projects, a water utility project, and then some updates on DPW operations that are happening across the village as we speak here. So we'll move right away into the agenda. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is understanding where Public Works works and what we do. So primarily, what Public Works does is work in the right-of-way. So that is an area of land that's reserved for typically roads, but also for utilities. And that is where Public Works does the majority of its work. There are some exceptions where there's work on private property, but by and large, the types of projects that we're talking about tonight are occurring either on publicly owned land or in the public right-of-way. And as you can see by the slide that we have up here right now, the public right-of-way extends beyond the edge of the asphalt or concrete on a road and into what would typically appear to be private property. But there's often a portion of that terrace area that's reserved for the right-of-way to hold utilities, to be able to conduct road maintenance and that sort of thing. And there are from time to time a misunderstanding of where the line is between private property and the public right-of-way. And that's something that, the Department of Public Works and even the county GIS can help you identify to a pretty good degree of accuracy where that public right-of-way line is in relation to your property. So with that definition out of the way, we're going to talk a little bit about our annual road program. So the annual road program is funded every year. It has been historically for a number of years funded at about $1.5 million for road improvement projects. And we saw an increase of about 3% in that funding this year. So it's about $1.56 million, which is greatly appreciated. That sort of investment and incremental increase helps us stay adjusted to inflation and allows us to do the correct proportional amount of work in order to maintain the roads properly. So what we do, and I'm going to advance just a little bit to talk about how we prioritize funding for roads. There's really two big factors when it comes to determining what roads we construct in any given year, and that is the condition rating. And in Wisconsin, that's called a PASER rating. That's a term from the state DOT. It's a condition rating on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 scored roads being in poor condition and 10 being excellent. The next factor in prioritizing road funding is traffic volume. So we take the condition and the traffic volume, and then every year or every other year when these PASER ratings are conducted, we sort through the roads and identify, based on condition and based on traffic volume, what is next for reconstruction activities. The PASER rating, we just finished conducting the 2025 rating. The previous rating was from 2023. So actually, if you attend the next village board meeting. You'll see that that PACER rating report is getting approved. And then once it's approved, that'll kick off the process of reevaluating the roads. I'd also encourage anybody listening to this that's curious about when is my road being reconstructed to go to the village website, go to Public Works, and then to engineering. And you can follow a link there to the road program where you will get a spreadsheet that outlines what roads are planned for reconstruction each year and a visual representation like we see on this slide. So when we're talking about road program funding and kind of this reassessment that happens with the PACER and annually upon approval of projects with the board, and you're looking at our program on the website, it's important to know that that first year, the next year, and maybe the following year, those are fairly definite projects. But when you get into years 3, 4, 5, and especially when we're way out to year 10, that those are our best guesses at this time. There's a lot that can happen over a course of 3 to 10 years. And that's why every other year after the PACER rating is conducted, we do that reevaluation and resort everything out. So that's kind of how it works. What we ended up with as the approved road program for this year is work on Sylvan Drive, Montgomery Drive, Wagon Trail, the Main Street sidewalks. So I wanted to talk just for a second about that. The Main Street sidewalk is repairing selected segments of the sidewalk on Main Street from Squire to Fond du Lac. You can find more information about the sidewalk replacement on our website. And for any business owners or residents on Main Street, we'll also be sending out in the next couple of days communication about what to expect, as well as what's happening directly adjacent to your property, so that you can plan for that. And with all of this work, we have it under contract now, and the work is anticipated to begin in early July, after the 4th of July festivities. So that's a quick summary on the road program. Again, feel free to go to our website, give us a call, reach out by email, and we'd be happy to talk more about this. It is important to note, although since we're working in more of a business kind of focused area this year, we have fewer driveways to deal with, but it is worth noting that with the road program, driveway approaches do need to be adjusted, and we do the work within the right-of-way. So a portion of your driveway approach will likely be removed and replaced by the asphalt as part of the road program. And the goal there is to make the smoothest transition from the road to your driveway as possible. There are folks in Germantown who have concrete driveways. The village is always going to replace your approach with asphalt. And we'd be happy to talk to anybody else who is concerned about that. It's also important to note that we do our very best to maintain access to driveways for businesses, for residents during the course of the road program. And we start that with the communication like we're having tonight and with the letters that we send. But then the contractor also works very close with folks as construction activities are happening. All right, so we will move into the seal coat program. So this is an asphalt maintenance program that involves a couple of different seal coating treatments. And I'll talk briefly about those. So again, these are quick curing topical treatments to asphalt surfaces, to roads. And usually within an hour or two, you're able to return to normal activities on the road and access your property. Again, the contractors will work very closely with residents affected by the program this year. The village does 3 different types of applications for seal coating. There's kind of a range of when you could expect seal coating to happen over the course of a road. The ultimate goal of these seal coating projects is to extend the life of your road. So instead of reconstruction at 20 or 25 years, we can be properly maintaining it and doing that reconstruction in 30 or 35 years, saving the village money over time because dollar for dollar, the maintenance is a lot cheaper than the road reconstruction. So real quick on the three different applications, the GSB 88, this is one I want to kind of focus on because it's the most unique of the three that we use. This is a product that is not a surface treatment, so it's not going to sit on the surface of the road. It may look, black and shiny and new for a period of time, but the intent of the GSB 88 treatment is for those oils to soak into the asphalt and restore the oils at all levels of the asphalt. So, we'll get a comment every once in a while about how it wore off really quickly. Well, it's not really intended to stay bright and shiny on the surface. That oil is getting absorbed by the asphalt that's on the roadway, and that's what we want. So it will fade over time, and it's not a surface treatment. You're also going to see this fairly early in the life of a road. So we're talking, somewhere in the year 3 to 5 of a new road, we could be coming in with the GSB 88 treatment. And this is a type of treatment that could be done on multiple occasions over the course of a road, especially if it stays in relatively good condition. So we'd expect that roads with getting the GSB 88 treatment would have a pacer rating in the maybe 7 to 8 range. The next two treatments are our surface treatments are intended to, I'm flipping through the slides the wrong way here, are intended to be a wear course on the road. So there is a microsurface treatment that contains oils, but it also contains some fine granular material. And that will restore the road and it will look black and relatively new again. This type of treatment is going to be on a road that's still in good condition, but probably a little further along in its aging process than a road that would be getting the GSB 88 treatment. So last year in the village, we did microsurface on River Lane. If you're driving around and you noticed that last year, that was a microsurface technique. And then the last one is called chip seal, and that's similar to microsurface in that it contains granular material, but it's a little heavier, more coarse material, and it gets applied in kind of a heavier dose. So you'll typically see the village doing this on more rural roads, and it's probably, when we're talking about when these applications get used over the course of a road, it would be the furthest out. So, we would probably be doing a chip seal on a road that's a 5 or 6 in pacer rating. So, potentially as much as halfway through its life. Now, there comes to be a point with seal coating where the road is too far gone, when we're down into pacer rating 4, 3, 2, 1, that we wouldn't invest in the maintenance dollars. That's when we would expect that the road would start to show up on our road program for reconstruction. So that's a quick summary of the seal coat program. I have a list here of which roads we're planning to do seal coating on this year and the treatment that's being used. I'm not going to go through them right now, but this slide deck will be available on our website, and we'll put a clip of this meeting out on social media as well. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to the village engineer, Kevin Driscoll, to talk about some of our road reconstruction projects.
Thank you, Matt. Kevin Driscoll, village engineer. So in addition to the annual road program, there are some special projects, including Rockfield Road and a couple others that I'll go through. This here is Rockfield Road. It's a 2.75 mile stretch of road, and we have this for contract for construction in spring and summer of 2025 with a completion date this fall in October. Contractor is listed here as Payne and Dolan, where inspection will be completed by staff, and there'll be road closures for culvert work and temporary detours anticipated this summer. This is a rural cross section with drainage swales, and is a pretty typical reconstruction effort that is funded through the Agricultural Road Improvement Program from the Department of Transportation. And this project is in conjunction with the town of Germantown, yes, the town of Germantown, where the municipalities will be receiving a 90% reimbursement for the completed work. On to the next project, Pleasant View Road reconstruction from Bonnywell to Lover's Lane. This is also adjacent to the Rockfield Road and included in the Agricultural Road Improvement Program with the DOT funding of 90% reimbursement to the municipalities. This project is also spring, summer 2025 construction of 1.5 miles of a rural road cross section, where essentially the road profile is to remain similar to match into the driveways as Matt had indicated before. And we'll be replacing a few culverts that will also require temporary detours and road closures to get those culverts constructed. Contractors listed as Wolf Paving, and again, construction will be is planned for inspection by village staff. In addition to the annual road program, this TID project is a new road construction south of Holy Hill Road off of Interstate 41. The road is High Point Pass. The timeline for this work is beginning this spring with construction completion anticipated in fall of 2025. And the contractor is Vinton. It's been awarded the construction contract with construction inspection to be completed by R.A. Smith. And there will be traffic control modifications in Holy Hill Road, and communication and outreach to the adjacent businesses and residents in that corridor are planned. That is a 3,750 foot, approximately 3/4 mile urban section with curb and gutter and pathways. Excuse me, I misspoke. That is a 1,500 foot section, and it's a 1/4 mile. In a future phase with a railroad crossing, then that road may extend to a longer segment. All right, moving on. Division Road is a fourth project that is currently under design. The design is being performed by DPW engineering staff. What we're addressing are some stormwater improvements, some path improvements, and working through a plat process for establishing a more uniform right-of-way for the transportation corridor, including the separated pathways. Staff is also in communication and performing utility coordination So we're able to move the project forward with these improvements, where essentially the typical section will remain the same with a relatively similar profile, where there'll be some curb and gutter improvements and path improvements, along with a pulverize and reconstruction of the asphalt pavement. It's currently anticipated in two phases, where the northern phase north of the Jefferson Ditch is anticipated, if permitting goes as planned, this fall, we may be able to advertise for construction of that north segment. And then in 2026, the segment south from the Jefferson Ditch to County Line Road would be part of that second phase, and have that asphalt pulverized, reconstructed, along with path reconstruction and select curb improvements. So those are the projects. I'm going to turn it over to Matt again here, but I just wanted to add one thing. I'm going to go back to one of the slides that had the annual road program. And this lays out the different paving projects. And then Maple Road was also included on here between Lannon Road to Interstate 41. So that is another project where there's a rural cross-section that is includes reconstruction. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Director Mortwitt. All right, thanks.
All right, real quickly, we're going to talk about just a couple more projects and then some dates that will be useful for you related to DPW operations in the village. So we do have a spring tree planting that is actually underway right now. It's really difficult to see on this slide, and probably if you're watching online, impossible. But there is information about this project on the village website. Again, if you go to the village website, to Public Works, and then Engineering, and click on Construction Projects, everything that we talked about today is also listed there. And this exhibit that is on the screen now is a lot easier to see when you're in front of your computer screen. But the spring tree planting is replacing about 90 trees on vacant planting sites. So there's a number of different reasons why a planting site has become vacant over the years. It could have been damaged by a storm. It could have been damaged by a vehicle. It could have been a tree that was removed because it was diseased from EAB or some other type of disease. But the village has about 300 some of these vacant planting sites, and we're on a 5-year program to replant all those sites. So this is year 2 of that effort, and we're planting about 90 trees. There are trees along main roads such as Mequon and Pilgrim Road. You'll see potentially new trees on village properties and parks, but also adjacent to homes in the right of way, like we described earlier. So you could see tree planting crews getting utility markings done, actually digging in the right of way adjacent to your home where a tree planting site is located. And that is all work that has been approved by the village in an effort to grow our urban tree canopy here. So again, I'll just refer you to the website if you have any information or want any additional information about planting locations, or reach out to us. And then just real quick through a couple other projects. The water utility has a curb stop replacement project planned. That would be along Mayflower, Water Street, and Colonial Drive. That'll be later this year. The intent is to bid and award probably later this summer. So stay tuned for more information on that. And again, just check in on the website for more details. All right, moving into DPW operations, some things you'll notice our crews doing around the village. The first is hydrant flushing. That's an annual exercise that the Public Works, Water Utilities crews do. It's underway right now. We tentatively have it scheduled between like the April 21st and May 30th timeline. The actual dates vary a lot depending on weather and a bunch of other factors. But we're making our way through the village right now and doing that hydrant flushing. It's possible after a flushing that you could see some discolored water. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Department of Public Works. We can verify if there was hydrant flushing in the area at the time you're seeing that. And if it was flushing, that should quickly go away. Street sweeping happens in a couple different rounds over the summer in Germantown. We just completed our first pass through the village to get a lot of that sediment and sand and other debris up from the winter. And there'll be another pass going through the village around the 4th of July. Tree pruning is another tree project that's planned for the fall. We don't have details on that, but that will go through a normal approval process with the Public Works Committee and Village Board. And just like we did with the tree planting project, we'll do an outreach to citizens with letters, with social media and website updates. All right, moving into yard waste, residential yard waste facility hours. We are in our summer hours right now, so the yard waste facility is open Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 7, and then Saturday from 8 to 3:30. It is worth noting that there's a couple new things about the residential yard waste this year. First, it's in our new location off of Donjas Bay Road on Town 9 Road. So the new Public Works facility is co-located with yard waste at that location. If you're going east on Donjas Bay Road, which I think the majority of residents would be to approach this site, it would be to the south, and you'd kind of follow the road around to the west side of the building to access the yard waste facility. So it's no longer in the Main Street location. And the other new thing is that you do need a residential yard waste permit to access the site. You can pick up that permit at Village Hall during normal business hours. You will just need your vehicle information, including your license plate, as well as your driver's license for proof of residence. The yard waste permit is free and it's good for 2 years. And then a couple of pickup collection dates to get out there. First, the village will be conducting its annual curbside brush collection starting June 2nd. And that will go until we've been able to service every location. You'll need to get that out to the front of your property by the 1st of June, because once we go by and do a collection, we won't be circling back. So you'll need to get the brush out, get it to the front of your property. For residents that have maybe a front of their property, but the back of their property is along a main road like Donjas Bay or Pilgrim or Mequon or Division, something along those lines, put it at the front of your property, even though the back of your property is accessible by one of those main streets. It's a lot easier and more efficient for our crews if that brush is placed at the front of the property. And again, we'll be starting that June 2nd. We'll go until it's completed. Kind of like with the hydrant flushing, our progress really just depends on staffing, on weather, and equipment availability. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention regarding DPW operations is our contracted bulky item collection. So this is larger, maybe appliances or something along those lines that you want collected, but you're not able to take it to the dump or For whatever other reason it's difficult, the village offers an opportunity one time a year to have those bulky items collected through our contract with Waste Management. So the bulky item collection starts on June 9th. And it's important to note that you need to call Waste Management ahead of time and schedule your address for a pickup. And you'll also need to check either our website or theirs on items that are acceptable to be collected. So much like the brush collection, you'll need to have that item set out by June 9th and have that scheduled with Waste Management. All right, there's a bunch of other work and projects, especially related to the water utility that aren't really in the public right of way. They're work related to finishing a booster station, finishing construction of a well and a water tower out by Rockfield Road, some water tower rehab work, generator upgrades, and a number of other things that the water utility staff is working on. I'm not going to go through those in detail, because the intent of the meeting tonight was really just to talk about how are you going to be impacted by what's going on the roads in the right of way in Germantown this summer. And in a similar vein, the wastewater utility doesn't have any big projects going on, but does have a study going on to look at what sort of upgrades down the road here will be needed at the Old Farm and Main Street lift stations. You'll hear more about that if you're tuned into the meetings through future utility advisory committee meetings, public works committee meetings, as well as the village board. So that wraps up the presentation tonight. I know there's no questions in the audience because there isn't an audience, but again, these slides will be posted online. This presentation will be posted online as well. And my contact information, as well as Kevin's contact information, are also available on the website. Thanks for taking a listen to this, and I hope it was informative and gives you a better idea of what's happening in Germantown this summer from Public Works. Thanks.